Chapter 1 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Nan Dodge. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Funny Fox. The funny fox and the bold badger, walking on the road to no place in particular, met the happy hare, singing, "I'm a happy hare, I do declare, I go here and there and everywhere." The funny fox winked his eye and said, "It is only 10:15. Come visit me now in my den." The bold badger, though a great friend of the funny fox, remarked suddenly, "I forgot something I had to borrow. Goodbye till the day after tomorrow." He scampered off in the opposite direction. Now the happy hare stood with her hand up to her face and looked foolish. Then she said, "Mother said if you talk to a stranger you may find yourself in danger." The funny fox laughed loud and long, for he was well known by every animal in the woods. He remarked, "I'll tell you a story in my den. You will be contented then." So they went clippity, clippity, clip, till they came to the funny fox's den, and in they went. The funny fox said, "You are such a happy hare. Won't you take the rocking chair?" Then he sat down in the corner and began his story. He said, "Once upon a time I met a hopeless hare. He had, by the way, ears just like you." The happy hare waved her ears nervously to and fro. "I gave the hopeless hare a fine breakfast and dinner and supper, and his eyes twinkled just like yours do." At this the happy hare winked very hard. The funny fox continued, "She twitched her nose, and I suppose why she did this goodness knows." The happy hare twitched her nose and waved her long ears suddenly. The funny fox continued, "I got water hot in my little pot. I thought I would roast her, like as not. She would boil and boil and never stop, unless she went off hippity hop." The happy hare gave one startled look round the den, and with a hop, skip, and bound, she was off and away. Off flew her hat, and her shadow looked longer and longer in the sunlight. The funny fox ran after her to his doorway, and then he sat down and laughed loud and long, for he really meant no harm this time. He was only joking. He laughed until his sides shook, and said, "There's many a slip 'twixt the cup and lip." He continued, talking to himself, "I wouldn't have eaten that happy hare. I prefer a chicken, I do declare." "Who said chicken?" cried a voice, and the Willful Wolf stood in the doorway, leading to the den. End of chapter 1. Chapter 2 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Willful Wolf. Today I introduce to you the Willful Wolf who plays tricks too. These animals all try to please, but one another they will tease. The funny fox pricked up his ears. "Chicken or young lambs are all the same to me," he said. So off he and the Willful Wolf went, trip, trip, tripping along. By and by they came in view of a field where the young lambs were. There was a hill leading to the field called Tumble Down Hill, and the Willful Wolf knew every inch of the ground, for he had lived there about all his life. He knew every hole and rock and pitfall, and had had many a tumble himself. He also knew the safe places to travel on Tumble Down Hill. He suggested a race, and the funny fox, suspecting nothing, joined heartily. In less than no time he fell and hurt his foot, and the Willful Wolf reached the fold and went off with the young lambs, saying, "Where are you, funny fox? Why are you so slow? There are plenty of young lambs here." "Well, as I run the race, I will go off with the prize." The Willful Wolf went off with the young lamb. At this very minute the bold badger came clippity clippity clip along. He walked on the whole sole of his foot, as is the habit with badgers, and he said, "By my long hair, I do declare the funny fox is lying there." The funny fox said, "Why do you come walking along so slowly? Can't you see I need help? For I have had an accident." The bold badger, though a solitary fellow, really liked the funny fox and his capers, and remarked that he would go borrow a wheelbarrow to take him home. The bold badger was soon wheeling the funny fox toward his den, and, as they went, he said in a sing-song kind of way, "I wonder why you call me a bold badger, for I am naturally a little shy and seldom go about except at night. My ancestors in Scotland and England went by the name of Brock, and in some parts of England today I am called Gray. My cousins, the Sand Bear and Indian Bear, look much like me." The funny fox had not heard a single word the bold badger had said, for, as they jogged along the road to somewhere in particular, his old head full of plans for teasing other animals, he fell asleep. So the bold badger left him asleep in the wheelbarrow outside his den, and said to himself, as he thought of the many times the funny fox had played tricks, and that the willful wolf had outwitted him, "It is a long lane that has no turning." End of chapter 2. Chapter 3 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Big Brother Bear. Big Brother Bear, you should beware. The fox is tricky, I declare. Even though you long for honey, I would not trust him for much money. The funny fox had a sore foot only a short time, but he made the most of it and limped along sometimes, just to be sly and cunning. One day he was limping along when he met old Brother Bear. "How do you do?" he asked politely. Old Brother Bear asked, "What makes you limp this morning?" The funny fox replied, "Alas, I hurt my paw and cannot walk another step. And it is sad, for I was going to the tree the woodman has cut down to get some honey. I can see the tree where it has fallen, but cannot walk another step." Old Brother Bear said, "I will get the honey. You wait here for me." He went on, smacking his lips. How he did like honey! No sooner had he reached the tree than he plunged in the opening head first. The funny fox ran hastily and took out some wedges in the tree, and old Brother Bear could not pull his head out. He was caught as though in a trap. "How do you like the honey?" asked the funny fox. Just then the bold badger came trip, trip, tripping along. He laughed when he saw old Brother Bear's discomfort, but he said it was a shame to fool him when there was no honey in the tree. Then he whispered something to the funny fox. "Let us help him out, and I will show him a hive where the bees are swarming. But we can make him go in and get real honey for us." Old Brother Bear was so thankful to the bold badger for helping him out that he readily agreed to his plan, and the three went along till they came to 3 beehives that stood in a row. The funny fox said, "You go now and get honey for us, and you shall have half of all you bring out." Old Brother Bear said, "I dare not go, for the bees are swarming, and I will get stung." The funny fox winked at the bold badger and said, "If you are so afraid, the bold badger will go and get a sip of honey first, to show you the bees here are harmless." The bold badger did this, and, though the bees came all about him, he did not get stung, because his hide is such no insect can sting him. Old Brother Bear, seeing he came to no harm, plunged in, and my, how he howled! He got stung and carried a swollen face for a week. The funny fox and bold badger went off down the road. After that, old Brother Bear knew enough to leave beehives alone, which shows that a burnt child dreads the fire. Every animal he met for a week asked, "Have you the toothache? Why is your head tied up, old Brother Bear?" To which he replied, "I'm not sure I heard just what you said. Perhaps it's the fashion to tie up the head." So I think old Brother Bear had a laugh after all, for to this day many animals do not know what was the matter with him. End of chapter 3. Chapter 4 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Careful Cat. The careful cat said, "I cannot tell how many times I fell down the well. To remember, what is the use? Let us consult old Mother Goose." Once upon a time the careful cat heard a bell ringing, and a great cry arose. "Ding dong bell, Pussy is in the well." She kept under cover, but crept up into a tall tree to see what was happening. After a while many animals passed by on their way home from market, and they peeped in the well, but could see no one. A voice cried, "Put down the rope and draw me out, or Puss will be drowned without a doubt." While the animals were busy putting down the rope, the fox, who had on his invisible cloak, hopped out of the well and seized the largest basket and went merrily homeward. "I will remember his slyness," remarked the careful cat. "Be very careful what you do. Don't let him play a trick on you," whistled the merry wind. One day, a little later, the careful cat was watching for mice in a barn when the funny fox came by and said, "If you take the road that leads to the mill, there are so many mice you can get your fill." The careful cat thought it over all day, and when moonlight came she said to the funny fox, "Maybe I would stumble in the moonlight." The funny fox only said, "There are so many mice, 1,000,000 or more. They are right outside the old mill door." The careful cat decided to go at once, and laughed at the idea of catching so many mice. The merry wind whistled again. "Be very careful what you do. Don't let him play a trick on you." The cat reached the mill door and was going to catch a fat mouse when he was caught himself in a trap. The funny fox slipped away, but the mill owner and others caught the cat and gave him a beating because they thought he had stolen their chickens. When loose, the careful cat was so angry he jumped and jumped and behaved in a funny manner. The funny fox said as he went off, "He laughs best who laughs last." End of chapter 4. Chapter 5 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Homeless Hare. "Oh, homeless hare, I do declare, of the funny fox beware. This cunning creature of the wood is very seldom, if ever, good." One day the homeless hare went clippity-clippity-clip along the woods, and when he came to the den of the funny fox he stepped inside and said, "By my long whiskers and stubby tail, I smell pot roast. By my twinkling eyes I smell cabbage, and by my wrinkling, twinkling nose I smell molasses." He went nearer and nearer the entrance to the den, and the funny fox peeped out and said, "You're looking thinner, very much thinner. Come in a while and stay to dinner." There was an old-fashioned plate on the mantelpiece, and it cried out, for it had seen things happen before. "Don't do it!" cried the china plate. "For your dinner you'd better wait." Then another voice piped up. "Don't do it!" called the coffee pot. "He will play a trick as like as not." Still another voice warned him. "Don't do it!" cried the rubber ball. "He is not a gracious host at all." The tea kettle bubbled over in excitement, saying, "Stop a minute! Think again! Don't stay in the fox's den!" In spite of all this, the homeless hare came on into the fox's den. There sat a table spread for three. Mrs. Fox said, "We're glad of company." Just as the homeless hare took his seat, before he could unfold his napkin, the funny fox said, "Let me examine your new necktie," and he sprang at him. Over went the table, over went the roast, cabbage, and molasses. The homeless hare thought his end had surely come, when a shot was fired and the foxes ran back into another part of the den. A few minutes after the hunters had passed by, the homeless hare crept out of the den. He had always supposed that the hunters were his enemies. Now he said, "A friend in need is a friend indeed." End of chapter 5. Chapter 6 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Cheerful Cock. The cheerful cock said, "To the fox's den I will go. I can't tell you, though, just when. I'll accuse him of everything he's done and make him pay for his reckless fun." One day the cheerful cock was angry as could be, for he woke to find his Aunt Matilda and Uncle Jim and 15 of his cousins gone out of the barnyard. He knew the funny fox was to blame, for the merry wind told him so. For once the cheerful cock was sad, and he made out a list of all the complaints he had to make, and he wrote them down on paper. Putting on his best spurs, off he went to the fox's den. On the den door was a sign, "Gone for a walk by the garden wall." Now it happened that the funny fox had heard that the cheerful cock was very angry, as indeed he should be. So he had put on the dress of a monk, hoping no one would know him in his disguise. The cheerful cock was near-sighted and took him for a real monk, and so he recited his troubles, thinking he had a kind, sympathetic listener. He did not see the fox's long, sharp nose. He did not notice his bushy tail. Just as he was through his story of wrongs, the pious-looking monk, for it was no other than the funny fox, made a spring at him, and the cheerful cock had just time to fly over the garden wall. He had thought the monk handsome in his fine clothes, but now he called back, "Handsome is as handsome does." End of chapter 6.
Chapter 7 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by LittlePeanut. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. A Friend in Need. "Oh, funny fox, take care, take care. This saying is very true. The animals say it everywhere. They will play a trick on you." One day, the funny fox roasted a great fat turkey and said, "Though it is a little before Thanksgiving, I am going to eat my turkey now." Trip-trap sounded little feet. Rap-a-tap sounded the knocker. The funny fox went to the door and saw no one, but the voice said, Turkey's not good, so I've heard say, without cranberries on Thanksgiving Day. The funny fox waved his long ears to and fro and went back to carve his turkey. He had just picked up the knife when, patter, patter, clicker, clatter, went little feet, and thump, thump went the knocker again, and a voice cried out, "You'll dislike the turkey, like as not, without potatoes smoking hot." The funny fox lashed his beautiful tail and said, "Someone's playing a joke on me." He went back and carved one leg off the great fat turkey and was just going to begin to eat his dinner when, ting-a-ling, went the telephone, and he answered as a voice called, "Don't eat your turkey, for by and by you can have some pumpkin pie." The voice went on, keeping the funny fox at the telephone, and he was annoyed, you may be sure. When he got back to the little table, the turkey was gone, drumstick and all. He set up such a howl that the bold badger, who was going by, stopped in to see what was the matter. It was an hour and 17 minutes before Funny Fox stopped roaring. The bold badger then said, "As tomorrow will be Thanksgiving Day, come and take dinner with me, and bring Mrs. Fox and Freddie and Frida Fox." Mrs. Fox was pleased when she heard they were all invited and said, "A friend in need is a friend indeed." End of Chapter 7.
Chapter 8 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Aric Reed, April 2021. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Bold Badger. The foxes live in a little den way down in the leafy glen, but now they all are on their way to celebrate Thanksgiving Day. The funny fox and Mrs. Fox and Freddie and Frida Fox went merrily through the woods to the bold badger's house. They all gave their fur an extra brush and wore their best bibs and tuckers. The bold badger lived in a burrow, and he stood by the entrance to it and made all his visitors welcome. In they went, and at last found themselves in a large room with a table set with plates and a great pitcher of honey. The bold badger even had a flower in a flower pot on the windowsill. They wore bibs so as to keep clean, and the turkey was so very heavy, Mrs. Fox insisted on helping bring it in. She brought it in on a great platter, and it was smoking hot. When it was set on the table, the funny fox laughed until his sides ached, for it had only one leg and looked like the very same turkey he had sat down to the day before. The animals had a regular Thanksgiving feast, with all sorts of good things, and the little foxes behaved very well considering their nature, though Mrs. Fox continually said, "Good girls and boys don't make a noise. Sit up if you're able, and don't pound the table." They had a merry meal, and the bold badger said, "One day lately I peeped in and saw you had been to the barber. Please tell us about it." The funny fox remarked, "Ill news travels fast," and he sat back comfortably to tell the story. End of Chapter 8. Chapter 9 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Aric Reed, May 2021. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Amiable Ape. The amiable ape, so the story goes, is a barber, as you suppose. If you have her trim your ruff, be sure to say, "Enough is enough." The funny fox said, "The other day I went to visit the amiable ape, our lady barber, to get a haircut. I sat down in her chair, and as her shears went snip, 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 she said, 'See that picture on the wall? The lion who is king of all.' The funny fox said, I got so interested in looking at the lordly lion in his handsome robe, and I so admired his crown, while the amiable ape's shears went snip, 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 that I never gave a thought to what she was doing, until, as bad luck would have it, I was shorn like a lamb. Now I have to wear clothing to keep warm, and the amiable ape said to me as I went out, Look in the mirror as you go out. You'll like your appearance beyond a doubt. I was so angry I nearly tumbled over her servant as she was bringing in the oil to finish the hairdressing. The amiable ape called after me, I left some fur on your tail and toes. That will help some, I suppose. I was so angry to find the amiable ape had been playing a trick on me, for she was usually my friend, but still I was thankful to have some fur left, which reminds me of the saying, half a loaf is better than no bread. To change the subject, the bold badger said, I've heard that story once or twice. Let's all go skating on the ice. So out they went, and while the bold badger was fitting his skates on, many interesting things happened. End of Chapter 9. Chapter 10 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Aric Reed. May 2021. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. The Wolf's Escape. If you are the wolf who owns a tail, to mind your mother you should not fail. If it's too early to begin, don't skate when the ice is thin. The funny fox saw something that amused him. He saw the willful wolf with his tail stuck fast in a hole in the ice. He had once told the willful wolf he could catch a meal of fish in this way. The willful wolf called, help me out, or I'll stick fast beyond a doubt. All the poplar trees heard his cry, and all the cattails and grasses swayed to and fro in the wind. What will you give me if I help you out? Asked the funny fox. The willful wolf said, I'll give you my bag with money in it. Please do not wait another minute. That is not enough, said the funny fox. The willful wolf said, I will give you my coat with the collar too. Come, hurry up, whatever you do. The funny fox said, that is not enough. The willful wolf said, I will give you my fur-lined shoes. You can help me out if you choose. The funny fox had long envied the willful wolf his shoes, so he gave a great pull and helped him out, and by this time a great crowd of animals had gathered to see what was going on. The funny fox took the willful wolf's presents and threw them to the bold badger for safekeeping, and dragged the willful wolf along, for he was nearly frozen. He was stopped by 2 leopards who were soldiers for the king, for they thought he was harming the wolf. It was only by a cunning trick that the funny fox escaped. He'd hoped to make a meal of the willful wolf, but had to leave him instead, which shows you can't count your chickens before they're hatched. End of Chapter 10.
Chapter 11 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Gini, Rosario. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Chapter 11, Little Hill Men. Little hill men, so I am told, on moonlit nights go dig for gold. So have a care, little hill men, the fox may take it to his den. One moonlit night, the funny fox and Mrs. Fox went out to see what they could see. To their delight, they saw the little hill men were digging gold and singing. We're little hill men, it's very funny, we dig and dig and dig for money. Click, 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 went their little spades. Clatter, 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 went the coins in their little bags. The funny fox said to Mrs. Fox, You wait here until I blow the whistle. Then he went into plain view where the little hill men could see him, and he danced the most wonderful dance. He danced and sang, Dance in the moonlight, it is pleasure to trip to music's joyous measure. The first little hill man stopped digging. The second little hill man stopped to watch him. Soon they all stopped to see the funny fox dancing in the moonlight. They called, "The little hill men all advance. Come, fox, and teach us how to dance." The funny fox answered without even winking an eye, "You can never dance, so I am told, laden with your bags of gold." All the little hill men unstrapped the bags of gold from round their waists and laid them on the ground. The funny fox said, "Close your eyes till I count 93, then a wonderful dancer each one shall be." So the little hill men closed their eyes and danced the new step until the fox had counted to 93, and they counted so loud they did not notice that his voice came from farther and farther off. When they looked about, the funny fox and their gold had disappeared, and they said, thinking of their hurry to learn to dance, "Haste makes waste." There was nothing left for them to do but to take up their little shovels again, singing, "We're little hill men, we frolic and play now and then. Of the dance we all had a taste, but have learned that haste makes waste." End of chapter 11. Chapter 12 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Gini, Rosario. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Chapter 12, Comical Crow. The Comical Crow has a tale of woe, and this is a story you ought to know. He's a wonderful bird, he can fly and walk, and sometimes he can even talk. He says, the funny fox one day out in the meadow came and lay. He pretended he was fast asleep, so nearer and nearer the wheat I'd creep. He came suddenly so wide awake, too late we learned our sad mistake. My friends he caught upon that day, but I spread my wings and flew away. The fox is cunning and very shy. To be his friend I'll never try. I will travel as far as I choose. To tell on the fox I'll spread the news. Which shows that little leaks sink great ships. End of chapter 12. Chapter 13 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Gini, Rosario. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Chapter 13, Daring Dog. Of the funny fox beware, he's full of tricks, you know. So when you see him, have a care which way you'd better go. Once upon a time the funny fox was very hungry, for he had had no breakfast, and he went through the woods to see what he could see. By and by, to his delight, he saw the daring dog with a great piece of meat, which he had stolen from the market. He was running homeward over a bridge as fast as his legs could carry him. "My, what beautiful legs you have!" shouted the funny fox. The daring dog slowed down a little. "My, what a cunning tail you have!" cried the funny fox. The daring dog wagged his tail, pleased with the compliment. "My, what wonderful ears you have!" said the funny fox. The daring dog moved his ears to and fro. The funny fox had now caught up with him, and as he ran alongside of him, said, "My, what bright eyes you have! But I suppose you really have ugly teeth, and that spoils your whole appearance." This offended the daring dog, and he dropped the meat a second to show his pearly teeth. The funny fox stole the meat, and was off and away before the daring dog could say a word. He remarked that the funny fox would have a good meal anyway, and if the butcher should see him running now, it was the fox who would be punished, which shows it is an ill wind that blows nobody any good. End of chapter 13.
Chapter 14 of 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Chapter 14, Fairy Gold. If you dig for fairy gold, you must be careful, so I am told, never to let the secret out, or it will vanish beyond a doubt. The funny fox called to Mrs. Fox one moonlit night, "We will take the wheelbarrow old, and we'll dig for fairy gold." So off they started, old Mrs. Fox riding in the wheelbarrow until they came to the place where the fox wanted to dig for hidden treasure. Click, click, click went his spade in the ground. "Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah!" he cried as he dug out 2 boxes and continued to dig out more gold than they had ever dreamed of. They lost no time, you may be sure, in filling the wheelbarrow with the treasure, and took turns in wheeling it homeward. They made plans for spending some of the loose coins, and they decided to hide the rest away. They even planned to make a present to the bold badger, who was their faithful friend. As they went homeward, the funny fox said over and over, "Money is a good servant." The moon laughed as he saw the funny fox hide his gold away, for he knew if one steals fairy gold, bad luck will follow him unless he gives it up. End of chapter 14.
Chapter 15 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Aunty Ape. The little foxes, without fail, like to hear a good night tale. So says the funny fox, "Ho, ho, I'll tell a story of Poverty Row." He began by saying, "One night I went to visit old Aunty Ape and her children Anna, Arthur, and Alice, who lived in a shanty in Poverty Row. They looked so poor and forlorn, and had little if any clothing on, and their place was so poorly furnished that I did not quite know what to say. A spider web even hung over their door, but there was a smell of good cooking which attracted me. So, taking off my cap with the bonny feather upon it, and making my very best bow, I inquired if I might stay and have a few pancakes. To my surprise, Aunty Ape served me an elegant meal, and then I told the children a sleepy story, and Anna began to nod, and Arthur began to grow sleepy, and Alice began to yawn, and Aunty Ape's head went nid-nod-ding, and soon they were all fast asleep, and I went to the pantry and helped myself to a fine fat chicken all nicely cooked. I left a few coins on the platter. Coming out, I told the Willful Wolf of my good fortune. He said, "I will go in and visit them at once." He was shocked by their poverty and homely appearance, and said, "Aunty Ape, why don't you get the children some clothes? Why don't you brush the cobwebs from your door? You poor creatures, I am sorry for you, but nevertheless I am hungry, so will you give me a bite to eat?" Aunty Ape boxed his right ear and his left ear, and the Willful Wolf came out howling with nothing to show for his call but a pair of lame ears, which proves that my kind words stood me in good stead, for sugar catches more flies than vinegar. End of chapter 15. Read by Beflamed on Saturday, May 15th, 2021.
Chapter 16 of 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Chapter 16, Magic Boots. Careful Cat and Old Brother Bear look out on Christmas Eve. Careful Cat and Old Brother Bear, the foxes often deceive. One December, the funny fox heard that Old Brother Bear had magic boots in which he could travel a mile a minute, and that the Careful Cat had such wonderful spectacles that she could see what was going to happen in the future when she looked through them, so he decided to invite them to hang up their stockings in his den on Christmas Eve. They were happy to come and hang up their stockings, of course, and the funny fox built a splendid bonfire outside the den, so they sat about in comfort waiting for Santa Claus to call. Meanwhile, Mrs. Fox filled the stocking full of nuts and candy, and said Santa Claus might come the other way, as there was another opening to the den. The funny fox said, "Old Brother Bear, let me try on your boots a minute, to see if they would fit me." Then to the careful cat he said, "Just let me try on your spectacles a minute, to see if Santa Claus is coming." The animals readily consented, and at this very minute was heard the tinkle, tinkle, tinkle of sleigh bells, and Mrs. Fox said, "Hurry, hurry, you may get a glimpse of Santa Claus." Old Brother Bear forgot his magic boots, and the careful cat forgot the wonderful spectacles. They hurried into the den. There stood the well-filled stockings, so they shouted, "Hurrah, hurrah, for Santa Claus!" They hurried out to see him, but he was nowhere to be found, and the funny fox had walked off a mile with the magic boots, and what he saw through the wonderful spectacles there was no way of knowing. Old Mrs. Fox said, "You got your stockings filled anyway." The careful cat remarked to Old Brother Bear as they went homeward, "They who play with edged tools must expect to be cut." End of chapter 16.
Chapter 17 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Alan Lawley. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. In the Woods. The bold badger says in greeting, "The animals all hold a meeting. So funny fox, come on, let's go. All their secrets we'll not know." The two animals went trip-trap through the woods, and sure enough, they found a great group of animals talking as they sat in a circle. When the Willful Wolf saw the funny fox and bold badger appear, he took off his glove and threw it down, saying, "Here I throw down the gauntlet, and command you to fight before the lordly lion, who will set the day and hour." "Softly, softly," said the funny fox. "My lord the king of beasts is ill with fever, and we will have to put off the fight." Laughing, the funny fox and bold badger departed, but the animals all decided to go soon to the lordly lion and tell him of the tricks the funny fox played upon them. This was all very well, until the Willful Wolf asked in a loud voice, who would be the first to make complaint? One by one, the animals slipped out of the circle, and the Willful Wolf was left all alone. He laughed until his old sides shook, and then rang a bell, at which all the animals returned. He said, "We will all tell our complaints, and I will head the list, so we will stand together against the funny fox." "All except the bold badger," said the wise old owl, and Aunty Ape, and a few other friends. The Willful Wolf laughed at the idea of the funny fox having friends, and the meeting broke up in high good humor, one of the animals saying, "Birds of a feather flock together." End of section 17.
Chapter 18 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Heather Eney. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Lordly Lion. Oh, happy Hare, take care, take care. Be careful what you do. The funny fox who takes the air may lie in wait for you. One morning the funny fox was sighing when the happy Hare came by. "Why do you sigh?" asked the happy Hare. The funny fox said, "The lordly lion is so ill, I am concerned about him. Let us go and visit him." So off the two went and found the lordly lion ill in bed, with his lordly head tied up, and his lordly crown hanging on one of the posts of the bed. The funny fox whispered to him, "If you would eat the heart of a hare, it would entirely cure you." This pleased the lordly lion so much that he ordered it at once, and the happy Hare had just time to escape out the window. The lordly lion did procure the heart of a hare later and was cured, so he thought a great deal of the fox and gave him a hamper of food, which he sat down by the wayside to eat. The fox ate till his sides stuck out and said, "Enough is as good as a feast." End of chapter 18. Chapter 19 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Heather Eney. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. The Throne. Spring has come and now is seen a throne awaiting king and queen. Oh, funny fox, beware, beware! For we will hold your trial there. The lordly lion was coming to the woods to meet the animals and hear their complaints at last. The queen was coming too, so the animals had a throne prepared for them. They said, "Where is the funny fox? Why doesn't he help? Where is the bold badger? Where is Aunty Ape? Where is the merry monkey?" One and all, they were advising the funny fox to appear ill so that he would be unable to meet the king and queen. He laid on some leaves in his den and kept a candle burning night and day. When the king heard he was ill, he sent him a dainty dish by special messenger. So the funny fox decided if the king favored him thus, he would get up. So the bold badger went with him, but they paused in the woods while the badger said these magic words. "At times you may see and not be seen, when you are tripping o'er the green. Funny fox, heed not the strife. Now you will lead a charmed life." The funny fox felt quite secure now, for he had also the magic boots and the wonderful spectacles. But he did not know that the animals were going to try to scare him by showing him a gallows. They came to the throne made ready for the king and queen, and near it hung a great rope. On inquiring what it was for, the rollicking ram replied, "We are as earnest as can be, and if you stay, perhaps you'll see who'll be hanging from that tree." This helps prove that brevity is the soul of wit. End of chapter 19.
Section 20 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Alan Lawley. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. The Escape. Oh, funny fox, take care, when to the woods you go. Your enemy is waiting there, and you had best bow low. When the animals gathered together, waiting the arrival of the king and queen, the funny fox put on his spectacles, and did not like the looks of the future altogether. As he was a great storyteller, he said, "Once on a time the Willful Wolf, who thought that he was danger-proof, got a bone in his throat. Oh my, how the Willful Wolf did cry! I heard him cry, I heard him shout. I sent the crane to help him out. He promised the crane a pot of honey, or else a little purse of money. The crane took out the bone with ease. He has a long bill, if you please. But he did not receive a cent of money, nor did he get his pot of honey. The wolf said, 'Run home to your wife. You should be thankful I spared your life.' The animals thought this was so unfair in the Willful Wolf that they came near hanging him from the tree, but he escaped, which reminds us of the saying, 'A miss is as good as a mile.'" End of section 20. Section 21 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Alan Lawley. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Happy Hare. Oh, happy hare, take care, take care. The fox will play tricks everywhere, and if you trust him, some fine day, he'll play a trick on you, I say. The happy hare loved to dress up in other people's clothes. One day he put on a little red jacket with long trailing sleeves and a little red cap, and went trip, trip, tripping along through the woods. He met the funny fox, who said, I'm out for frolic and for fun. I'll give you a costume like a nun. The happy hare put on a dress over his costume and journeyed on with the funny fox, who said, I will teach you a little song. The tune is easy, the words not long. The happy hare was very anxious to learn to sing, so he said the words over and over while the funny fox hummed the tune and beat time with a hickory stick. They sang the words to the tune of Twinkle Little Star, and they were these. To all animals be kind, gently try to make them mind. We will love you if you think to give us some food and drink. The happy hare said, the funny fox is the best kind of humor today. Suddenly, without any warning, a strange thing happened. The funny fox sprang at the happy hare and tore his dress and took a slice off one ear, if you please, before he could escape. By and by, when the happy hare had recovered from his fright, he said, that was a cute little song. I'm glad to learn it anyway. He felt somehow that he had better hurry home, for a wise old owl said to him, do not crow until you are out of the woods. End of section 21.
Chapter 22 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by SmilingJade. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. The King and Queen. The lordly lion on his throne will hear complaint from every one. The lioness, I do declare, looks like a queen in her high chair. Very splendid indeed was the arrival of the king and queen in the woods, and they had splendidly attired attendants. Finally, they took their places on the throne, prepared for them, and were ready to hear the animals' complaints. The lordly lion looked very splendid in his red robe and gold crown, waving his scepter, and the queen had 2 merry monkeys for sentinels. She wore an ermine robe which trailed to the ground, and a golden crown, and she sat intently listening. The funny fox advanced and bowed humbly, saying, I am the funny fox, your loyal subject. He looked meek indeed, for he could see through his wonderful glasses what was going to happen. He thought it best to take off his wonderful glasses and present them to the lordly lion, saying, My lord, allow me to offer you a gift. Put on these wonderful glasses or spectacles, as they are called, and you can read the future like an open book. The lordly lion could not help being pleased. The reckless ram next came forward and said, Wait, my lord, till you hear the whole. I will write the proceedings on a scroll. He had a quill pen he was anxious to use and a new sheet of paper. The animals held their breath to see what would happen. End of section 22. Chapter 23 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by SmilingJade. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. The Judge. The Lordly Lion thought it fun to be the judge of everyone, so animals from far and near were very glad to gather here. The careful cat came limping along on a crutch. She had got well long ago, but put on her bandages again and came limping along on a crutch to make complaint of her treatment by the funny fox. Next came old Brother Bear, storming through the forest, for the funny fox had put a piece of sticky fly paper on his back to tease him. The careful cat's grandmother brought a book in which she had written the doings of the funny fox as she had observed them through her 9 lives. She presented it to the Lordly Lion to read. The happy Hare showed the picture of one of his cousins rescued too late from the funny fox, and he told of his own trial and showed his own torn ear. The delightful donkey showed a meal of thistles that had been served him by the funny fox. Just as old Brother Bear was going to relate that many tricks played on him, the reckless ram told of the time the funny fox's great-grandmother had tricked and roasted his 21st cousin, and this made a thrilling tale indeed. The Willful Wolf became excited and kept shouting, "I threw down the gauntlet! I threw down the gauntlet!" His face was the picture of rage. The bonny beaver had collected books and books, telling tales on the funny fox, and the pretty pony said she could hardly train her colts at all, for the funny fox set them such a bad example. A crow flying overhead paused and talked an hour, and by this time it began to look pretty bad for the funny fox, which shows it is a long lane that has no turning. End of chapter 23. Chapter 24 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by SmilingJade. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. A soft answer. The Lordly Lion growls and shouts, "Be careful what you are about. Funny Fox, we're here today to listen to what you have to say." The funny fox had heard that a soft answer turneth away wrath. So he stood upright, saying, "My lord and master, do you remember how I helped you in your recent illness? And though I play a joke now and then, I have a really kind heart. As for my catching poultry, I have a wife and 2 children to support." Mrs. Fox and the children were near. They each sat looking as innocent as a mouse. "Besides this, I have a sly disposition, and it is my nature to tease, and it is your nature to rule. Besides this, my lord and king, see my many friends." There was a great rustling of branches and leaves. In came the bold badger, the shy deer, the ape family, and many other animals to testify for him. Had the Lordy Lion not known the whole fox family for years and years, he might have set him free then and there, but a great tumult arose from the animals he had wronged, and he asked the funny fox to say his prayers to the reckless ram. Old Brother Bear acted as jailer and took the funny fox to jail. The funny fox was sad, but soon regained his humor, and next day asked the Lordy Lion to visit him and hear a fairy tale. End of section 24. Chapter 25 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by SmilingJade. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. The Gold and the Jewels. If you are sad, then do not fail to read this jolly fairy tale, for fairy tales are often funny and laughter worth a mint of money. The Lordy Lion went to visit the funny fox in his cell, and the funny fox said, "Once on a time, the little hill men were digging for gold on the hillside, and I made them learn a little dance and took their gold by a cunning trick. And I hid it away for you, my lord and master, and if you will let me go out in my magic boots, I will be back in a short time, for I procured this treasure for you." The Lordy Lion let the funny fox out, and in less than no time back he came with the gold. The king of beasts was pleased, for he wished to return the gold to the little hill men, as he had heard much complaint from them, and he said he would stay and listen to another fairy tale. Fairy tales, if we discover, can be told the wide world over. This really has a magic sound. The lost jewels now are found. So said the funny fox, and the Lordy Lion begged him to tell what jewels were in his lost chest. The funny fox said, "As I remember it, the jewels were stolen by animals long ago and taken out the secret door of your castle. I discovered where they were, and my good wife helped me carry them safely to my den." "Yes, yes," cried the Lordy Lion, "but tell me, what was in the jewel chest?" The funny fox said, "Will you give me my freedom if I describe the contents of the jewel case and deliver them safely into your keeping?" This the Lordy Lion consented to do. So the funny fox continued, "In the jewel chests were 3 smaller chests, and they contained strings of gold and pearls and a gold crown and many curious pitchers and vases and bags of gold. One necklace had an 8-pointed star on the end." As the funny fox described all these things correctly, the Lordy Lion said he himself would send to his den, and if the treasures were delivered over to him, he and Mrs. Fox could come to the castle and live in ease and comfort. While the Lordy Lion sent to the den, he asked the funny fox to tell another fairy tale. End of section 25.
Chapter 26 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. The Magic Comb. The magic comb run through your hair will make you happy anywhere. So says the song, so says the rhyme. It's carved with scenes of olden time. The funny fox produced the magic comb. It had quaint stories and legends carved upon it, and the funny fox knew them all by heart. He ran the comb through his fur and was so happy he did not mind being in jail at all. He even forgot the sad bears growling in the den next to him. The king ran the comb through his hair and was so happy he danced a jig. The funny fox said, "Here is a magic mirror with my likeness carved on the sides and handle. One who looks in this mirror need never study history, for he can see what happened in the past. Just now I see my great-grandfather unjustly tried for an act committed by the wolf." The lordly lion, looking in the mirror, saw the great-grandfather fox in chains, and the owl reading his sentence. The lordly lion said, "Tell me the tale of the ring, and we will then go to the castle and live happily ever after." The funny fox turned the magic ring and said, "That shall be as you wish, but ducks are your favorite dish." In came 2 ducks, smoking hot, and they had a meal. As the lordly lion spoke of liking fish, in came a basket of fish and a string of fish, for the funny fox had only to turn the magic ring and the dish he asked for appeared. The lordly lion by this time thought the funny fox a worthy fellow, and did not care a bit about his playing tricks on anyone. At this very minute the jewel case was brought in, and the lordly lion presented the funny fox with an ermine cape and a gold crown. The funny fox said, "I am happy now at last, I can forget all the past. I played with matches like as not, I forgot fire was so hot. Many, many years ago, I scorched my bushy tail, you know, and once the housewife threw out bones, and pelted me with ugly stones. The animals often call me sly, I never could imagine why." So saying, the funny fox slipped out with his magic boots on, and the lordly lion did not know what to make of this behavior. End of chapter 26. Chapter 27 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. The Lessons. If to fight a duel you ever go, you must practice for it, as you know. The funny fox took lessons then in his own dark hidden den. The funny fox had not forgotten that the Willful Wolf had thrown down the gauntlet and summoned him to a duel. He had to prepare to meet the Willful Wolf on a certain day, at a certain hour, and he had to practice boxing, and he had to exercise and rest regularly. This was the reason he left the lordly lion, for he had no time to lose. Aunty Ape rubbed him all over with the slippery grease, so that the Willful Wolf would not be able to hold on to him for a second. The bold badger boxed with him and taught him much cunning, and all his friends helped him to prepare for the coming event. The day and hour came. All the animals assembled in the woods and believed that the funny fox would not keep his word. The careful cat suggested that no doubt he was now living in fine style in a castle, as he had not been seen in the woods since he escaped from jail. The lazy leopard said the funny fox might show up yet at the last minute. Sure enough, at the last stroke of 12 he came, and all his friends with him. The animals set up a shout, "Hurrah! Hurrah!" They all took their places, and the duel began. End of chapter 27. Chapter 28 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. The Duel. Oh, animals, it is not right even to pretend to fight. Let's be good-natured every day in our work and in our play. The funny fox first had the advantage, but though the Willful Wolf first could not get hold of him on account of the grease upon him, he had wonderful use of his tail, and to this day it is not known how the fight would have come out if the bold badger had not set up a shout. "Willful Wolf, fire, fire! See the flames go higher, higher!" Sure enough, the house of the Willful Wolf was on fire. He went howling and limping through the woods, and the funny fox went howling and limping too, to help put the fire out. There are those who think to this day that the funny fox knew who started the fire. Anyway, the duel was over, and the animals returned to their own homes. The funny fox said to his household, "There is just one certain thing. I must learn a story about a ring. What shall I tell about the ring? I must not disappoint the king." Mrs. Fox's head went nid nodding, and soon she was fast asleep. They did not know that the wise old owl was so sleepy that he did not know the outcome of the duel, and went off to tell the king that he thought the funny fox was hurt in battle. End of chapter 28.
Chapter 29 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Magic Horse. You can travel fast, of course, if you ride the magic horse. So gallop away, as King's messenger today. Prince Lightheart heard the king growling and growling. He growled so hard he nearly shook the crown off his head. He told the prince to mount the pony Prancer and go straight to the woods and find out the truth of the matter. Prince Lightheart knew and loved all the animals, and they all knew and loved him. He rode rapidly away, and when he arrived in the woods, found the bold badger, who in answer to his question only shook his head. Next he met the careful cat, who had a sad demeanor, and the amiable ape, who remarked, "Woe is me." Old Brother Bear shook his head also, but one and all remarked, when coaxed to talk, "The funny fox stays in his den. He does not come out even now and then. Though he plays tricks, goodness knows. We miss him, as you might suppose." Prince Lightheart went clitter-clatter to the den. He said, "Funny fox, without a doubt, you'll tell me what this is about. The sun shines warm here in the glen. Why not come out from your den?" Mrs. Fox came out and made excuses, but Prince Lightheart would come in and rest. The funny fox greeted him and said, "A fairy tale perhaps you bring. I will present to you this ring." End of chapter 29. Chapter 30 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. The Prince. A fairy tale on a band of gold, so the enchanting story is told. Prince Lightheart will ride away to find the princess fair today. The prince was so rejoiced to recover his lost ring that he kissed the funny fox and told him that the princess had been changed to a snake years and years ago, and only by use of this magic ring could he bring her to life again. As soon as he could do this, they would be married and have half the kingdom. The funny fox found great favor with the prince and asked him to dine there. By careful study of the ring, they found the princess was in a convent garden, and the directions read, "Travel east and travel west. Follow the road you like best. Your pony you must leave, of course, and ride upon the wooden horse." The funny fox clapped his paws and brought forth a wooden horse made by his great-great-grandfather and never used. Prince Lightheart took the wooden horse outside, mounted it, and to his surprise, they leaped into the air together and rode to the convent garden. Mrs. Fox said, "I hope the princess is alive. I hope Prince Lightheart will arrive." The funny fox said, "The king will receive us now, of course, because of the gift of the wooden horse." All this time, the lordly lion was waiting for news of the funny fox. End of chapter 30.
Chapter 31 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. The Invitation. The invitations who will write, all the animals to invite. The lordly lion said, "What fun! We'll have a feast for everyone." The first invitation sent out was to the patient pig. The patient pig just danced a jig when his invitation came. He said, "I'm glad I'm a piggy wig, and the patient pig is my name. Though I like good things to eat, this fact now appears, I'm invited to a treat, the first time in years and years." He went to show his invitation to the merry monkey who was leaping from tree to tree with his best jacket on, with the striped sleeves and rolling collar. He said, "You are lucky, I declare. Patient pig, what will you wear?" They talked the matter over, and the patient pig decided that he looked best in his new checked suit, and he was glad to find the merry monkey was also invited. They could hardly wait to find out who else was invited, and they could hardly wait to find out what they were to have to eat. As they went along, the zealous zebra said, "Our differences we'll put aside. Now the invitation has come. We all will travel far and wide. There is fun for everyone." The zealous zebra was so very polite that the patient pig said, "That reminds me of the saying, 'A new broom sweeps clean.'" End of chapter 31. Chapter 32 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. The Comical Crane. Said the Comical Crane, "I stand 4 feet high. To learn my call, I hope you'll try." The Comical Crane had a wonderful call. He could be heard at a long distance, and he cried out in 2 notes, an octave apart. He made such a noise when he received his invitation to the feast that soon he had all the other animals around him, and the joke was, they all came bearing invitations too. The celebrated camel came humping along and remarked, "We'll start to travel, it is clear, for this is a favorable time of year. When we start, of fun there'll be no lack. Now who will travel on my back?" The faithful frog replied, "I believe I'd rather hippity-hop. Then once in a while I'll rest and stop." He continued, "I hope the lordly lion will consult our tastes, and have something each one can eat." The Comical Crane said, "I'll keep on calling out for you. Let's travel in pairs, 2 and 2. End of chapter 32. Chapter 33 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Dressing Up. Oh, animals, without a doubt, the invitations all are out. And of course, to be polite, the funny fox they must invite. Such a hurrying and scurrying as there was in the fox's den. Mrs. Fox said to the children, "Where are your best bibs and tuckers? Where are your new hair ribbons?" The funny fox said, "Where's my high collar? Where's my gold-headed walking stick?" Everything was in progress to get ready for the wonderful feast in the castle, and every animal was preparing for the journey. The news had spread far and wide through the forest, and for once all the animals were friends, and no one even suggested that the funny fox might play a trick on them. The Willful Wolf forgot to be angry over the duel he had fought, and the crane forgot to be angry with the Willful Wolf for not paying him to take the bone out of his throat, and altogether they were a happy company. When the funny fox heard they were planning to travel in pairs, he remarked, "I'll wear my magic boots, you see. I may travel alone or in company. I've learned this lesson. He who smiles can travel merrily miles and miles." End of chapter 33. Chapter 34 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. The Joke. They all had a laugh at the careful cat, as she sat and purred upon her mat. She said, "I will drink some milk that's sweet, so I'll surely have quite enough to eat." Oh, but the careful cat looked fine in her new clothes, and she practiced reciting verses from her mother goose. She learned every rhyme she could think of that mentioned a cat, so that she could have something to think about at the feast, and something to talk about, too. She told her kittens that their feelings must not be hurt if they had to sit at a side table, because one table might not hold all the guests. At this very minute the thankful turkey, thankful because he was not eaten on Thanksgiving Day, came in laughing so hard it was some time before he could tell the joke. He said the amiable ape was so hard of hearing she did not know the crane had been calling, and she did not know that the animals were all invited and planning to go together to the feast. She was trying to reply to her invitation and did not know what to write. The shy squirrel said, "I'm going to see if I can help her." The faithful frog set off too, and when they arrived at the home of the amiable ape, they peeped in the window. End of chapter 34. Chapter 35 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Shy Squirrel. We always like to be polite. The answer then we'll try to write. We'll answer politely, yes or no, when we are invited out to go. The amiable ape for once was out of temper. She had upset the ink and blotted the paper. She had a dictionary on one side of her and a bunch of pencils on the other. She had never replied to an invitation before in all her life, and she did not understand how to do it. The shy squirrel tapped on the window, and the faithful frog croaked his loudest. The amiable ape said, "Don't you see? I have no time for company. The lordly lion bids me come to a great feast at his home." The animals went inside. The shy squirrel took a quill pen and used it as he had seen the reckless ram do, and he wrote, "The amiable ape will be pleased to accept the lordly lion's kind invitation to the feast," and so on and so on. The amiable ape said, "I do declare it is well to have friends everywhere. I thank you, little squirrel shy. I am very glad that you came by." The faithful frog wiped the ink spots off the carpet and croaked, "We'll wait at the edge of the woods for you. We mean to travel 2 and 2. End of chapter 35. Chapter 36 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Solemn Stork. The solemn stork likes to carry news, but he wears out all his shoes. The wood ibis says, "You can hear me cry. I stand about 30 inches high. I am busy with little folks, you see, but hope to join your company. A riddle I make, and this I write. What kind of a bird is snowy white? It has to brave every kind of weather, but its head is bare of feathers. It has a bill that's very long, and for digging purposes very strong. It has a long and powerful cry, and stands, as I said, 30 inches high. Can you guess the bird named in this rhyme? When flying they travel one at a time." All the animals put on their thinking caps, and for 1 hour and 32 minutes no one could guess what bird the stork was talking about. Suddenly, without a bit of warning, the crane let out a cry, and then the animals all knew. The riddle described the crane, you see, just as plainly as could be. It is fun to make a riddle or two. Just try it yourself to prove it's true. End of chapter 36. Chapter 37 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Lazy Leopard. "Oh, lazy leopard, will you wake? Do not make this sad mistake of sleeping on more than an hour at least, or you will be late to the feast." The lazy leopard never liked to get up in the morning, and when Grandfather Leopard bought him an alarm clock, he got so used to it he just turned over and went to sleep again. The Grandfather Leopard said, "I say this to give you warning. You must be on time in the morning. If my bag of smiles you'd wear, you must be on time, I declare." So the lazy leopard had to practice being on time to breakfast, dinner, and supper. He made himself a wonderful coat to cover his many spots, and he learned the song of the alarm clock. "Be on time, my rhymes are funny. Be on time, it's worth much money." As soon as he learned to be on time, Grandfather Leopard gave him his bag of smiles. He could use them whenever he pleased, for himself or anyone else. When he saw a smile needed any place, he sent it to light that particular face. Good folks said, "Life is worthwhile if you'll teach us how to smile." Though the leopard travels west or east, he will be welcome at the feast. End of chapter 37. Chapter 38 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. What They Said. Old Brother Bear said, "I can hardly wait the journey to begin. I hope they'll have honey sure as fate when we'll all get within." How Old Brother Bear did like honey! The daring dog said, "At the feast you can let me alone if you'll get me a great big bone." The shy squirrel said, "Of nuts I hope they'll have a plenty. I could eat about 26. The amiable ape said, "I can be quite happy, but I hope they'll give me a coconut." The careful cat said, "A castle is finer far than a house. I hope they'll serve me a nice fat mouse." The lazy leopard said, "I know we'll have good things to eat, I hope they'll serve me lots of meat. The patient pig said, I don't mean to make my voice gruff, but I never truly get enough. The merry monkey said, Ha ha! Just listen to my voice. Some fine ripe fruit will be my choice. The funny fox licked his chops and said, Some wishes are better not expressed. I'll never tell what I like best. The thankful turkey looked nervous, and the happy hare went off into a corner. End of chapter 38. Chapter 39 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Chapter 39, Not For Me. The happy hare said in accents hearty, Hurrah, hurrah for the lion's party! I hope some cabbages to eat, when at the feast we all will meet. The happy hare ran about all day, saying, Cabbages and carrots! Cabbages and carrots! Not for me, said the capricious crane. Not for me, said the lazy leopard. Not for me, said the little black bear. Not for me, said the gallant goat. Perhaps you all would be good enough to say what you would like to eat then, said the happy hare, addressing the gallant goat. He liked to tease, so if you please, he said, I eat some things like these. He held up apron strings, you see, before that funny company. Sure enough, he had been tearing some clothes off the line, and had eaten up part of the apron that had belonged to the happy hare. The happy hare remarked, It is no use for you or me to cry over spilled milk, you see. He meant by this, it was no use to grieve over the apron, for it was gone. The gallant goat felt so ashamed, he took $2 silver from his left-hand coat pocket and handed them to the happy hare, and told him to go and buy a brand new blue and white checked apron. He did this at once, singing, I have never a care, I do declare, I'm a happy hare, a happy hare. End of chapter 39. Chapter 40 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Awaiting the Guests. The lion said, Are you aware? Many good things we must prepare. For the animals we like best, we will assemble as our guests. The lordly lion suggested to the queen that they prepare for the grand feast. We'll have nuts, suggested the queen. The lordly lion said, The lazy leopard will not enjoy nuts. We will have meat, suggested the queen. The lordly lion said, Perhaps the faithful frog would not care for meat. So they had a great time preparing a bill of fare, and they finally decided to have every kind of food they could think of, and they set 3 tables for the animals. The lordly lion had a new crown made for himself. Everything went on merrily in the way of preparation for the coming feast. The lordly lion could hardly wait for the great day to come. He had high-backed chairs placed at the head of the table for himself and the queen, and said, Tick, tick, tock, tick, tick, tock, I must be patient as the clock, but as sure as I'm alive, I wish the guests would soon arrive. End of chapter 40. Chapter 41 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Be prompt. If to the feast you'll really go, you may have to wait an hour or so. Some folks are prompt as they can be, and others are behind, you see. Are we all here? Asked the funny fox, excitedly running to and fro to count noses. The careful cat remarked, I don't know whether I locked my door. I often made that mistake before. Of course, they had to wait while the careful cat ran back to see if she had locked her door. When all were ready to start again, the lazy leopard remarked, You'll have to wait till I get my cart. Without me now, please do not start. When he had brought his cart, the happy hare cried out, Let's take turns, give me a ride. Let me and the squirrel sit side by side. The willful wolf said he wanted to ride the first mile, and they had quite a time until the amiable ape came and reminded them they were all to choose partners and go 2 and 2, as they had agreed. They paired off, singing, We come from the west, we come from the east, we all will journey to the feast. Suddenly, someone inquired for the funny fox. He was nowhere to be seen. The bold badger, who had seen him last, remarked, He may get there before or after. He went off and shook with laughter. The animals all laughed, for the fox would not amuse them at all if he did not play some tricks upon them. End of chapter 41. Chapter 42 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Chapter 42 Before the Rest. If you ever give a feast, for either man or beast, be careful well to guard the door. Perhaps I mentioned this before. The funny fox put on his magic boots and ran a mile a minute. He planned to get to the feast before the rest, which he did, but the king's sentinel would not let him pass, and so he had to sit and cool his paws. But he knew he must make some excuse to the animals, so he borrowed a camera from the sentinel and begged so politely to take pictures of the king and queen that the lordly lion heard his voice and came out saying, Funny fox, you saved my life. You are welcome here. Where is your wife? The funny fox said he came in a little advance of the company to relate the story of the ring. This pleased the lordly lion so much that he said, We will place 2 more plates at the table, for the prince and princess may arrive at any minute. The funny fox begged to be allowed to place the extra plates on the table, and the queen later missed a plate of cookies. The queen looked forward to the arrival of the prince and princess. This was sensible, for of course they were riding on a wooden horse, and a wooden horse with never a care can carry his passengers anywhere. End of chapter 42. Chapter 43 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Welcome. If you're an animal and alive, you'll find it is fun to arrive. From the largest to the least, they all enjoy the lovely feast. Hippity-hop, all the animals traveled through the woods, and soon they arrived at the great feast. The lordly lion lashed his tail and said, Welcome to every bird and beast. Welcome, welcome to the feast. The animals found their places at the table. What a wonderful table it was. There were cold rolls and hot rolls. There was cold meat and hot meat. There was a great pumpkin pie in the center of the table, and jugs of milk and honey. Everything went smoothly, until the patient pig tried to grab some food, and the amiable ape looked really cross and shouted, "Though you're very fat and big, and actions too do not show the pig." The merry monkey gave him a severe look, and the patient pig was so mad at being reminded of his enormous appetite that he merely grunted. The tiger suggested a toast to the leopard and said, "For you, this is my wish, a long life of happiness." Soon they were all drinking each other's health and shouting, "Long live the lordly lion! Long live the lioness! Long live the funny fox!" End of chapter 43. Chapter 44 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Smile Bag. Be entertaining at the table, at least so far as you are able. The hours that come for laugh and song, right merrily will speed along. Some of the animals forgot their table manners. The thankful turkey said, "Did you really mean to tease? I don't like nuts, if you please." Sure enough, the nuts were by his place at the table, and the patient pig remarked, "I'm the patient pig, but like as not, we should have our muffins smoking hot." Old Brother Bear said, "I'm Old Brother Bear, I do declare, I can't see the honey anywhere." The animals were busy passing things to eat, and the patient pig got in a hurry again, and began to sample everything in front of him. The amiable ape lost her temper, and said, "If you don't mind your P's and Q's, we'll send you outdoors if we choose." At this very minute, the lazy leopard opened his bag of smiles. He said, "Here's a smile for every face. Here is the hour, time, and place. Here is the happiness for every beast. Smile now, and enjoy the feast." My, how the smiles flew to the faces of the animals. They all cried, "Long live the leopard!" You may mind it, but we do not, that the lazy leopard can't change his spots. End of chapter 44. Chapter 45 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. The Merry Time. Merry, merry is the feast, enjoyed by both bird and beast. They sit at the table a long time, and tell stories in prose and rhyme. The careful cat recited so many verses from Mother Goose, telling how her great-grandmother once went to London to see the Queen and so on, that the funny fox rang a bell and shouted, "Ding-dong bell, pussy's in the well." The lordly lion was amused, and said, "Here is just the very thing. The fox will tell about the ring. He may relate to, of course, the story of the wooden horse, and prince and princess, as today, we hope they are not far away. We'll laugh and sing. The prince will bring with him, of course, the magic ring." The funny fox saw they expected him to tell a fairy tale, but he was enjoying a bone, so he said, Did you ever hear the song, not very short or long, of the funny magic shoes that go far to carry news? Some of the company had heard the story, and some of them had not. Those who had heard about the magic shoes told the story as they had heard it, and no two stories agreed. The Willful Wolf looked cross-eyed and said, "The funny fox might tell today of the magic boots now, anyway." End of chapter 45. Chapter 46 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Singing. The funny fox began to scold. He pretended that he had a cold. The bold badger began to sing a song, not very short, not very long. He sang to the tune of Yankee Doodle. If to the woods you often go so early in the morning, look out which way the wind doth blow, I give you all fair warning. Ha ha ha, the fox is out, you may see him dancing. Ha ha ha, the fox is out, retreating or advancing. The bold badger helped the fox out by singing the song over and over till everyone learned it. The funny fox did not know much about the ring he had given the prince, and was afraid to tell a story about it. The queen said, "A fairy tale is the very thing. Who will tell about the ring?" Everyone looked at the funny fox. He began a merry little dance. He danced on his toes, as you suppose. He even danced on the tip of his nose. They were all so pleased to see the dance, they forgot about the story. The funny fox danced to the switch that turned off the lights, and he left the whole company in darkness. In his magic boots he traveled a mile, and still he wore a pleasant smile. End of chapter 46. Chapter 47 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. The Riddle. Said the patient pig, "It now appears I have lived for years and years. Some things I cannot quite express, but here is a riddle for you to guess." They got the lights turned on again, and the patient pig began to tell his riddle. One animal with a bushy tail is always cunning without fail. Every secret that he hears, he remembers years and years. He invites us now and then to visit him down in his den. His name begins with F. And so, you may guess in an hour, I know. The animals laughed and their merry eyes twinkled. The thankful turkey was the first to shout, "The funny fox!" He next said, "There's a big animal with a curly tail. To name him you can scarcely fail. When I tell you at any kind of treat, he never gets enough to eat." They all shouted, "The patient pig!" The animals made so many riddles, they forgot that they were waiting for something else, of course. The arrival of the wooden horse. End of chapter 47.
Chapter 48 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Heather Eney, 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith, The Wooden Horse. If you ride a horse of wood, you may not arrive just as you should, but it has a magic sound to ride high o'er the ground. When Prince Lightheart arrived at the convent, he put on a suit of armor and by use of the magic ring turned the snake into the pretty princess. She was more than willing to mount the wooden horse with him. She did not wait for any wraps, but mounted behind the prince. "Don't let me fall off," she cried. "Hold on tight," shouted the prince. The pretty princess said, "I love every bird and beast. I hope we'll arrive at the feast." Faster and faster went the wooden horse, high up over housetops, valley, and hill. They arrived at the castle just as the animals were preparing to leave the table. "I knew the time and place, of course," said the wonderful wooden horse. "Our journey was not fast or slow, but I am glad to rest, you know. We traveled west and traveled east, and still expect to have a feast. We all have reason to rejoice," said the wooden horse in his wooden voice. End of the Wooden Horse. Chapter 49 of 50 Funny Animal Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Heather Eney. 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. The message: this story very soon will end. So, if you like it, tell a friend. And when it's really, truly over, read again from cover to cover. "Hark!" cried the lordly lion. "I hear the clatter of wooden feet." The queen said, "I hear the clatter of wooden feet, of course. It is the wonderful wooden horse." At this very minute the wooden horse poked his head in the door and said, "The prince and princess are alive. We are very happy to arrive." The princess smoothed her beautiful hair and straightened her pretty beads. The prince slipped out of his armor, and the king and queen insisted they take their places at the table, and ordered more coffee, more rolls, more cakes and spice, more apples, more honey, and everything nice. So the feast began all over again, and the prince and princess told of their travels, and the prince rubbed the magic ring, and the lordly lion became a real king, and the lioness a real queen, and they divided their kingdom with the prince and princess. While all this was going on, the wooden horse felt his nose quite out of joint, and sat in a corner and said, "My wooden legs were once my pride. Will no one jump on me and ride?" The funny fox peeped in the window and shouted, "We'll be most happy to ride, of course. You are a wonderful wooden horse." The wooden horse has ways so funny, quite worth the admission money. Wherever he'll go, you'll really know. He'll dance and prance, his skill to show. The funny fox whispered in one ear of the wooden horse, and the willful wolf whispered in the other. The happy hare had such big ears he could hear things not meant for all, and he shouted, "We will have a jolly ride, you'll see, if you take the whole company." All the animals wanted to ride the wooden horse. He was pleased at being so popular, and though they crowded each other, he took them all home and dropped them on the way one at a time. The funny fox was the last one to leave, and he invited the wooden horse to live with him again for a year and a day. The wooden horse went out many times after that, and the happy hare often rode on him and cried, "You're a wonderful horse, I do declare, while I am only a tiny happy hare." By and by the king sent for the funny fox and crowned him with a laurel leaf, for he had liked him and enjoyed his jokes so much. The funny fox wrote all his jokes in a book and said, "Tales of love and tales of laughter are the things we're looking after. So turn the pages merrily, and you'll have many a laugh with me." Finis. End of 50 Funny Animal Tales by Laura Rountree Smith.